everyone, welcome to another Procreate tutorial. This is the drawing that we'll be completing in today's video. This little mushroom display in a glass. Perfect for fall, which we are rapidly approaching. I love fall drawings, so I was excited to start jumping into some. So I hope that you enjoy it. If you are new here, I mainly post Procreate tutorials, so if that's something you're interested in, go ahead and subscribe. I also offer extra tutorials over on Patreon, so that's linked in the description below. If you join us over there, you get exclusive tutorials every month, along with sneak peeks of what we're drawing over here on YouTube. And here are some of the drawings that we've been doing recently. But before we get started on today's video, the only thing that you'll need to do is download the color palette. I have it linked in the description below. It's totally free to download. Just save the file to your iPad and then double tap it or click on it and click open in Procreate, and it will automatically pop into Procreate so you can use the same colors as you follow along with the video today. And then I will also post the canvas dimensions, color profile, and layers needed on the screen and in the description below so that you can use those to set up your canvas. So take a minute to get everything ready and then come back and we'll get started. Okay, this is the color palette that we'll be working with today. So let's just go ahead and get started. So we're just going to start by setting our background color. So to do that, we'll go to our layer menu, go to this background color layer, click on it to open it up, to select our color and select the first color on the first row of the color palette. And then the second color will be our glass color. The third color will be like a little glow in the background at the end. So we're just going to move on to the fourth color. Now don't click it here, it'll change your background, but on our layer menu, we're just going to be on layer 1. Grab the fourth color on the top row of the color palette. We're going to be on our monoline brush under the calligraphy tab. For the brush, we're going to have our opacity set to 100, our size set to like 30. And we're just going to draw a nice, good horizontal oval towards the bottom here to start the base of our display. So let's just draw a nice, good oval. Hold it down until it turns perfectly smooth. Touch your finger on the screen to set it to this horizontal angle. So you'll see it kind of snaps to these different angles. We want this horizontal one. If yours snapped to a circle, that means you drew it too close to a circle. So try to redraw it more oval-like so you can get a good shape like this. Whatever size and stuff it's at is fine. We'll just go ahead and fill it in first and then we can adjust it. So fill it in by dragging and dropping. Grab it with your arrow tool on freeform, and I'm going to leave it probably about the same. I think it's pretty good. We want it pretty skinny from top to bottom, not like all the way to the edge of the canvas or anything, nothing crazy like that. Let's also make sure snapping is turned on in the bottom left, and then we'll center it on our canvas from left to right where we see this vertical yellow line there. And then we'll drag it pretty close to the bottom here like so. Leave a good amount of room on the top for all of our other stuff. Okay, then this is going to stay as like the top of our bottom of our display. So we're going to leave that layer there for now. We're going to make a duplicate of it. So slide to the left and hit duplicate. Grab the bottom one. And we're going to drag and drop this next color, fifth one on the top row. We're going to drag and drop that into the shape. You won't see it because it's on our other layer here on our layer menu below the darker one, but we'll grab it with our arrow tool. We'll move it straight down on our vertical yellow line there, keeping it lined up a good ways so we get a nice good base. Something about like this. On the same layer, same color, same monoline brush, we're just going to connect the sides now on this bottom layer. So to zoom in on the left side, I'm going to start right at the very edge. Draw a vertical line up, hold it down until it turns perfectly straight, touch your finger on the screen to make it perfectly vertical, and then you can click this line button at the top to adjust it, so then you can move it around a little bit if you need to. So mine was poking out a little bit, I just brought it in just a smidge so it's a nice smooth transition there. Grab my pen tool again, I'm going to just connect this area here that's still open so we can fill it in. And then we'll do the same thing to the other side, so a vertical line. Hold it down, touch your finger to the screen, edit it and move it if you need to. Connect this other area and fill it in. So now you should have something like this for our base. Yeah, we should have a little gap at the bottom, a good gap on each side. If you need to, you can grab both of them at the same time. So you can grab one layer, slide right on the other one on your layer menu, and then with your arrow tool, you can resize them. You can move them around, anything that you need to do, keeping it on that vertical yellow line. So that looks good. Okay, now we'll just build our sand next that's inside. and it will also be the start of our glass. So we'll do a few more things here with these ovals. So on our top oval, the darker one, slide to the left and hit duplicate again, be on the top one this time. Grab our sand color, which is the 8th one on the top row, and drag and drop to fill that in. Grab it with our arrow tool on freeform again, and we're going to drag it down quite a bit in size, both from left to right and top to bottom, and then I'm going to recenter it. So I'm going to center it on my yellow line, and then you should see a blue line that pops up that centers it within our brown oval. And then we just kind of want it to be fairly even all the way around. It can be a little bit thinner on the top and bottom than on the left and right. But yeah, we just want it in a good ways and centered. Something like that. Okay, we'll make another one of those. So layer menu, slide to the left and hit duplicate on this sand colored one now. Be on the top one, grab our bright white color, second one on the top row, and drag and drop to fill that in. So this is going to be the start of our glass. So then on our layer menu, let's add a new layer. And what we're going to do now is draw a circle to connect with this oval. So just with our bright white color monoline brush towards the top of the screen, let's draw a nice big circle. Hold it down until it turns perfectly smooth. Touch your finger on the screen to make it a perfect circle. Again, kind of whatever size it snaps to is good. Make it as big as you can. That looks like similar to the size of our white oval at the bottom from left to right. So get as close as you can to it like this and go ahead and fill it in. Then we're going to grab it with our arrow tool and we're going to center it on our center yellow line. And then on uniform, I just want to make sure that these edges are going to line up. So I'm going to drag this around until I see this blue line. Since snapping is turned on, we'll get this blue line that snaps it to the edge of that rectangle or of that oval down there. So you see that blue line pop up. So resize it on both sides until you get that. But again, with uniform, it should stay a perfect circle. Yeah, each side should line up with that. Also kind of placing it from top to bottom here. A little ways from the top of our canvas is good. Maybe about a similar space that we have below. Something about like this. So yeah, so it should be centered. It should be lining up with both sides of the white oval below it. And we should have a little space at the top. And now we're going to connect it on the sides with another vertical line. So from the left side of this oval here, I'm going to draw a vertical line up. We're still just on the circle layer. Vertical line up to the circle, hold it down, touch your finger to the screen to make it perfectly vertical. Click the edit line button to move it if you need to. Get a nice good transition there. Same thing on the other side. And it should line up perfectly with the vertical line since they're lined up together. Since we did that in the last step. Beautiful. Then on our layer menu, we're just going to snap this to our oval layer so that we have one big white layer with this empty space, but now it's connected so we can fill it in. Touch up any little gaps that there might be after you filled in, and you should have a shape like this now. So this is our glass. We'll probably come back to this in a little bit. For now, we're just going to click the N on this layer and drag the opacity a good ways down to maybe like 10 to 15%, somewhere in there. Okay, let's go back to our sand layer now. And so now we can see that again. So on our sand layer, that same layer with our oval on it, we're just going to go back to our sand color, 8th one on the top row, same monoline brush, and we're just going to make this a little bit more, look like there's like sand inside. So I'm just going to start from one edge and kind of like go wavy, something kind of like that. To the other side. Touch it up, make sure it doesn't extend outside of our glass. So something like this, and then we'll just go ahead and fill in that piece there, or any pieces you might have. But now we have a little bumpy piece of sand in the middle. Okay, we'll add the texture and stuff to the sand later after we get our mushroom and our leaves down. So we're just going to keep on going. Let's add our mushroom now. So we're actually going to start with like the top of the mushroom. So let's add a new layer inside. Grab our bottom like part of our top mushroom color, which is going to be this 5th one on the 2nd row. And we're still in our monoline brush and we're going to make another oval. So we're inside now. I'm going to make an oval right about here. Hold it down until it turns perfectly smooth. And we're not setting it to horizontal. You can click this edit ellipse button though and adjust it. So I'm going to make it a little bit skinnier, but I want a good angle on it. Like so. Something kind of like this maybe. not too wide or anything. So maybe about here, and then a good amount of room on the top for like the top of our mushroom. So I may be a little over halfway through my glass area, something like that. And then I'm just going to go ahead and fill that in. You can resize it and stuff if you need to, rotate it, anything like that. But otherwise, that looks great. Now we make the top of our mushroom. So on our layer menu, we'll make a duplicate of this oval that we just created. So slide to left and hit duplicate. We're going to be on the bottom one. We're going to switch to our first red color, first one on the bottom row, and drag and drop to fill that in. Again, it's behind this other layer, so we can't see it right now. But we'll grab it with our arrow tool on freeform. The first thing I'm going to do is I don't want to stretch my oval out weirdly like freeform is going to do. Because of the way the rectangle is sitting on it. So what we want to do is we want to change the rectangle first. So I'm going to grab this yellow bar and we're going to rotate it to the right a little bit until like the edges of our ovals meet up with the blue lines on the middle so that we get a little bit more of a straight rectangle. It's like straighter with our piece. And then we can upsize it on each side just a little bit. And we want like an even amount around our other oval. So something kind of like this is good. Then to make the top of the mushroom, same layer, same color, I'm just going to start on the left side, make a good arc to the other side, hold it down until it turns perfectly smooth. Then you can click this edit arc button at the top and you can adjust it. So I'm going to just make sure the corners meet up nicely, adjust the top to be as big or as small as you want, and then adjust the curve to just be nice and smooth. Mine was kind of like tilted like this, so I just want a nice smooth curve all the way through. Okay, that looks good. And we don't want to take up like the whole glass. We want room for like some fireflies around it and stuff. So just something like this. And then we can go ahead and fill this in. Touch any of it up if you need to, if there's any little gaps, or if maybe your line didn't quite meet up perfectly, you can go ahead and go through and fix that a little bit. So we get a nice smooth shape. Okay, now we'll make our stem. So on our layer menu, let's make a layer above all the layers that we have so far, except for our glass layer on the top, right underneath that one. And we'll grab our first stem color, the first one on the second row. Same monoline brush, and let's go ahead and start kind of in the middle of this oval area here, and I'll make another little oval. Really, really small this time. Hold it down until it turns perfectly smooth. Click the ellipse button at the top to adjust it. I might make it like a little bit more up and down, but it can be slightly angled, but just kind of right smack dab in the middle there. Again, very, very small. Go ahead and fill that in. If you need to move it around, you still can with your arrow tool. But yeah, I might have it be like a little closer to the bottom than the top. So the back side of our mushroom there. So we kind of see more of the top side of it underneath. Okay, then we're going to make the stem off of this. So I'm just going to start on like the left side. I'm going to just make kind of a wiggly line down to the base. Same thing on the other side, wiggly line kind of getting wider at the bottom. And then at the bottom here to connect it, I'll just make a slightly curved line, curved downwards. Hold that down. Something like that. You can adjust it. I want it more straight than that, like pretty straight on, but maybe the slightest little curve to it is fine. Fill that in, smooth it out if you need to, but we want it kind of wavy and stuff. So it looks very natural. Okay, that looks great so far. I might grab it and just make it a little bit shorter. I just kind of wanted to land right in like the middle of my sand here, but we want room for some leaves in front of it. So you can make it skinnier, taller, anything like that. I'm probably going to make it just a little smaller all the way around. Something like that looks good. Awesome. We are on our way. Things are looking great. Let's go ahead and make our leaves now. So we're going to make a few in front of our stem here. So add a new layer. Let's grab our first green color, 7th one on the bottom row, and our same monoline brush. And I'm just going to start and I'm going to make a leaf shape coming off the ground right in front of our mushroom here. So just the traditional kind of leaf shape, like almond shape. Something like that. Fill it in. Beautiful. Then we're going to make them on different layers. So add a new layer for a new leaf. I'll probably just start right to the left of it, maybe going at a different angle. You can overlap with the other one, that's fine. Fill that one in. And then I might want like one more in the front. So I might just start right here, kind of something like that. And I can move these around later or resize them if I need to. So yeah, I resized them a little bit, and then I'll just kind of replace them here so they look a little bit better. But yeah, something like this is good for the front. And then we'll make a set on the 2 sets on the back as well. So those will be behind our sand layer. So go back to our dark brown oval layer right underneath our sand layer and add a new layer there. Same color, same brush and everything. And again, we're going to make 2 sets of this. So we'll make one in the back and one right above it. So I'll maybe start on the left side here and make one kind of going like this. Connect it and fill it in. Maybe on the other side, again, like another kind of out facing one. Fill that in. Try to kind of keep them all similar in their sizes. So I might downsize them just a smidge and then move one over. So that's kind of how you can adjust them. So downsize the whole layer on uniform and then use your selection tool. You can select on one of them and you can resize that one on its own or move it around or rotate it or anything like that. So that looks good there. And then another new layer right above that one. And we'll make another kind of layer behind our mushroom here so then they can overlap if they need to. Or if you want them to, fill them in. Fill them in. And then those are our leaves in the background. Again, I just kind of feel like the back ones are all a little bit big. I might make them a little smaller. Move them around a little bit more. Okay. Something like that looks good. And once we do all the shadows and highlights to all of those, they'll look a lot better and we'll be able to tell them apart a little bit more. But feel free to adjust those, move them around as you see fit. So now we will move on to all of our shadows and highlights and texture and everything. So let's go ahead and just start from like the bottom and we'll work our way up. So on our very bottom layer, our lighter brown base layer, let's click on that and turn on alpha lock. And then on our color palette here, the base color for that was the 5th one on the top row. We have a darker one right before it and a lighter one right after it. Let's go ahead and start with the lighter one. So the 6th one on the top row. And then the brush that we're going to be using for all of this is going to be the To Be Compressed Charcoal brush under the charcoals category. I'm going to start with the opacity really, really low so that we can get some all around texture with this. So I'm going to do like 30%. My size will do like 10. And I'm just going to go all the way through it over it one good time without picking my brush up, just to add some like base texture there. You should see it start popping up. Nothing crazy. Then we'll increase our opacity quite a bit to maybe like 70%, and then we'll lower our size a little bit as well to maybe 5. And I'm just going to do this highlight color now like right on the rim here. So all the way through on the rim to give a good highlight there. Some good texture. And then maybe just like bring it down in a few spots as well, a little bit further. Just so we get some more kind of like a variation going on. Something like that. Okay, then we'll bring in our shadow color. So that's going to be our darker 1/4 one on the top row. And we'll start that at the bottom. So I'll do it all the way across the bottom. And then kind of bring it up just a smidge pretty lightly. So that, again, we get some good kind of variation going on. Okay, so then it should look something like this, and then we'll move on to our next layer, the one right above it. It's the really dark one. We'll click on that one and turn on alpha lock. And for that one, we have, again, a slightly lighter one that we'll use for all of our textures, so the 5th one on the top row. So let's grab that one, lower our opacity to like 30, up our size to like 10, and just go all over this really quick to give a little bit of starting texture there. Then we'll grab our really dark color, 7th one on the top row, Same brush back up to 70% for our opacity and back down to like 5% for our size. And we're just going to go all the way around the sand in the middle so that we get a good kind of shadow going there, all the way around. So we get a really good shadow in the center there. Beautiful, that's it for that layer. Next up is our first leaf layer, so I'm just gonna turn that off and turn it back on. So it's the ones in the back, the far left and far right side for me. So just kind of know which leaves you're on. Click on that layer and turn on alpha lock. And our base color was this 7th one on the bottom row, so we'll move to the 8th one, slightly lighter. And we'll do some all over texture with this. So we'll probably this one isn't that much lighter, so I'm just going to leave it at like 70%. And we'll even just leave the size at 5. And we're just going to go all over really quick and give some good texture there. Texture on the other one. Beautiful. Then we have a nice darker color, 9th one on the bottom row, and that'll be our shadow. So I'm going to kind of do that along the bottom. So same brush and everything. Adjust the size if you ever need to. But this works good for me. I'll do like kind of some shadows around where my other leaves are, so it kind of highlights them there like so. Same thing on the other side, just a nice shadow near the base. Okay, our very next color is our really dark green. Let's switch to that one, last one on the last row, and we'll add just a teeniest little bit more of a shadow near the very bottom edges. Okay, then we'll move on to our highlight color, which is the last one on the second row. Really bright green, and we'll do the very tips of them in a nice highlight. Like so. Kind of going a little bit lighter sometimes at first to bring it in kind of far, and then pushing harder towards the edges or picking my brush up again to really brighten those up. Okay, then while we're here, we're actually going to go back to our really dark green color, last one on the last row, and we're going to grab our dry ink brush under the inking category to do the veins. So my opacity is at 100 for the brush, size at like 10, but do whatever works for you. And then I'm just going to go right through the middle and then maybe a couple off of them as well. Something like that. Do the same thing on the other one. Beautiful. Okay, next layer is our next set of leaves. Same thing, turn on alpha lock, and again, we'll start with the one right next to our base color, 8th one on the bottom row, back to our charcoal brush, and again, all over texture first for both of them, and then a shadow. So next color, 9th one on the bottom row, same brush, same size and everything. And I won't do like a super dark shadow on this like left side here because I don't want these to start blending in together again. So I'm going to kind of leave that one alone and do the shadow more towards like the right side, just to add some shadow to the bottom of it, but not blended in with that next one again. Okay, darkest color, last one on the last row, deepen up that shadow a little bit at the very bottom. And then our lightest color, last one on the second row to do the tips. And I guess I'm only doing this one for now. And then I will move on to the other one. I did the base colors on that one. So I'll go back to my first shadow color, 9th one on the last row. Do a good shadow there, wherever we can see it. And then the darkest one, last one on the last row. And the lightest one, last one on the second row. Beautiful. Now we'll do our veins. So go back to our darkest color, last one on the last row, go back to our dry ink brush, and again, vein through it, couple sticking off the side. Vein through it, couple sticking off the side. Awesome. Okay, next up is our sand. Let's go ahead and find that layer, click on it, and turn on alpha lock. Okay, our sand color was the 8th one on the top row. We have a slightly lighter and a quite a bit darker one. So let's do our slightly lighter one first, 9th one on this top row. And back to our charcoal brush. We're going to lower the opacity a bit to do some all over texture. So again, maybe like 40% or so. up to 10% for our size, do some all over texture with that. Beautiful. And then this is also our highlight color. So I'm going to up the opacity back up to like 70, down the size back down to like 5. And we'll do some kind of like highlights towards like the tops of some of these hills. So really kind of brighten those up where we can see them. And maybe just even in a few other spots to kind of show some more like depth and dimension. Like in the front, I'll just like make a couple little blobs to just maybe show that they go up there a little bit. Something like that. Then we will grab our darker color, last one on the top row. And again, opacity at 70. I'm just going to go through and kind of create some really brief little shadows here. Lower your opacity further if you need to, but I'm just going to go kind of like around some of my highlighted areas, around like the base of my leaves. And then if you can see the base of your mushroom, go ahead and put it near that as well. But I can't really see that in my picture with my leaves covering it so much. But again, just create some more kind of dimension and stuff with that color. So it should look something like this when you're done. Okay, next up is the top of our mushroom, the red top. Okay, fun. Let's go ahead and click on this layer and turn on alpha lock. And we'll do some all over texture, a little bit of highlight, a little bit of shadow, and then we're going to do an extra highlight and then our spots on it as well. So first one is our all over texture. That's the second one on the bottom row. Same charcoal brush. We'll just probably leave everything as is. So yeah, maybe we'll go back up to 10% for the size to do our all over texture really quick. Okay, then let's switch to our lightest color, third one on the bottom row, and our size back down to 5. And this is our like highlight color. So I'm going to go around the top of our next oval here. So around the rim of this oval here, we're going to add a good highlight there. And then as soon as we get to the edge here, we just kind of stop it. So I kind of let it curve down to the edge. But then when we get to like the back side, we're going to put that mostly in shadow. So just side to side on the top of this oval. Okay, then a little bit on the very, very bottom side. So where there's not going to, so just right on the very, very edge there. Just poke it in just a little bit. Beautiful. Okay, once we're done with that, that's it for like our main highlight. We can add like a little bit to the top as well, and then we'll add another highlight there as well. So something like that looks good. Color palette, let's grab our fourth color on the bottom row. That's our shadow color. So that's going to be, again, just right on the very inside of this other oval. Create a nice good shadow there, just on the back side, not on the top side. So good shadow in there. Okay, beautiful. Now we'll add our last main highlight and then our spots. So layer menu, add a new layer right above this one and click on it and set it to a clipping mask. Then you can click the N on this layer and drag this layer style up to overlay. Okay, then we'll grab our next color, fifth one on the bottom row. Same charcoal brush and everything, and I'm just going to go right over the very top here to create like another little highlight at the very top of our mushroom, like so. Then I'll also go right over the front a little bit where we did the highlight there and make it even just a little bit brighter right there. Okay, beautiful. That just adds like another level of highlight to it. Now we'll add our spots. So those are going to be with another new clipping mask. So on our layer menu, a new layer right above the one we were just on. Click on it and set it to a clipping mask. Click the N, and this time we're going to set it to add. And we're going to grab our bright white color, second one on the top row. And we're going to switch back to our monoline brush under the calligraphy tab. And I'm going to set my size to 100%. And this is going to be the size of my spots. So I'm just going to poke around like so. And they're really bright right now, but we're going to lower the opacity. But I'm just going to do a good few of these all over the top, however you wish to. Like so. Layer menu, click the A on this layer, and we'll drag the opacity down quite a bit to maybe like 50% or so. And that is our spots. Okay, and it'll even look even better when we do this next layer inside. So that's our next one on our layer menu. Click on it and turn on Alpha Lock, the slanted oval. Okay, and our base color for that was the fourth one on the second row. We have a slightly darker one for all of our texture. Let's grab that. Let's switch our brush back to our charcoal brush, 70% for opacity. Let's up our size to 10. Do some all over texture really quick. Okay, then we're going to grab a lighter color, which is actually going to be the first one on the second row. Same brush, we'll just lower our size back down to 5. And we're going to do this lighter color kind of all throughout the middle, not touching the edges or the inner parts. So just kind of in from the edge, in from the center. So just kind of right around that, almost like making like a donut. There. So just highlight all through there, like so. Okay, then we grab our darker color, the 7th one on the second row. And that's going to be our shadow color. So we're going to go right near the edge of our red mushroom. So go right through the edge there, all the way around. Pretty deep shadow. And then also right near the center, where the center of our stem meets our oval there, we'll do a shadow around there a little bit as well. Okay, and then I want to darken the shadow just a little bit more. So we're going to grab this dark brown color, the last one on the top row. And we're going to lower our opacity of our brush a little bit to maybe 50% just so we're not being so dark. And then we'll just go right through the edge again at the very, very edge on the top here. Maybe not even on the bottom, just the top. The very, very edge to really darken that up a little bit more. And then right at the very, very base of the stem again. Just the teeniest little bit. Okay. Awesome. Okay, now we'll add the lines to it, so that'll help make it look kind of rounded as well. So on our layer menu, let's add a layer right above the one that we're on. Click on it and set it to a clipping mask and click the N, and this time set it to multiply. Grab our next color on the second row, 8th in line, the gray. And we'll go back to our dry ink brush under the inking category. It's still at 10%. And I'm just going to start kind of right on the middle on the top and just go right off that and make a quick, slightly curved line through it like so. Slightly curved out and to the right I did. Then I'm going to go to the left and curve out and to the left a little bit. And then from there, we'll just go side to side and they'll kind of keep curving that same direction. So everyone to the left, I'm going to start right at the base again, curve to the left. They'll get wider at the top just naturally. And then they'll keep getting longer. So then the next one will be pretty long and then pretty long all the way to the edge. And then on the back side, they'll kind of curve that same way. We'll just see a little bit less of them. So pretend that they're always coming from the middle. So again, then now we'll do the right side. So they'll curve to the right a little bit. Always going out a little bit further, but always coming from the center. Like so. And that really completes the top of our mushroom and makes that look awesome. So now we'll go to our next layer on our layer menu, which is our stem. Click on that layer and turn on Alpha Lock, and we'll do the same thing that we've been doing. This was the first color on the second row, so we'll grab the second color on the second row, slightly darker, back to our charcoal brush, opacity back up to 70, size up to 10, and we'll do the all over texture really quick with that color, slightly darker than our base. And now we'll do some shadows and stuff. So our next color is a shadow color, third one on the second row. I'll probably drop my opacity down to like 50 so we can get some kind of variation. But size, we'll do 5 again. And then I'll do a shadow near the top, so I'll start there. Just kind of maybe on like the left side, I'll decide is going to be in shadow more. So then I'll go all the way down the left side towards the bottom. If you can see much of the bottom, shadow that as well. And then I'll kind of just pick up my brush a few times and kind of deepen up the left edge a little bit more, like so. Nothing too crazy. Then we have a highlight color, fourth one on the second row, and we'll just kind of focus that on the right side, not touching the top at all or the bottom really. The top and bottom should be more in shadow. So just kind of right in the middle of the right side, highlight that. Awesome. Last up is our last leaf. So we'll just go one by one and do exactly what we did in the background. So our first one here, let's click on it and turn on alpha lock, and that is my middle leaf. So I'm going to go and grab my eighth one on the bottom row. I'm going to do some all over texture really quick, just with my brush the way it is now. I could probably go back up to 70% for my opacity, but that's fine. And then we'll do our next color, ninth one on the bottom row, and again, shadow kind of near my other leaves and near the bottom. Next color, last one on the bottom row, and we'll deepen up the shadows a little bit at the very base. And then our highlight color, last one on the second row, and we'll do the top. Again, kind of lightly in the center and then deeper or, brighter on the very edges there. Okay, then we'll do our line through the middle. So back to our darkest color, last one on the last row, back to our dry ink brush, and our line, like so. Awesome. Next leaf, click on it and turn on alpha lock. I can tell it's this leaf on the left here. Grab our second green color, eighth one on the bottom row, back to our charcoal brush, do our all over texture, boom, and then our shadow, next color, ninth one on the bottom row to do our first little shadow, mainly at the bottom again, not trying to make it too dark on the right side so that we can see where these overlap really well. Then our last color on the last row to deepen up our shadow a little more. Our highlight color, last one on the second row, touch the top through the middle a little bit, brighten it at the very edges. And then our line. So back to our darkest color, back to our dry ink brush. The lines through the middle. Okay, last leaf. Turn on alpha lock. Grab our second green color, eighth one on the bottom row, back to our charcoal brush. And all over texture. Boom. Then our first shadow. Again, not trying to overlap too much with our other leaf. Then our darker shadow. Then our highlight. And finally our dark line. Back to our dry ink brush. Beautiful. Okay, I might deepen up the shadows on my sand a little bit. So do any other adjustments that you might need to. I think that looks good. We still need to make the fireflies, the glass detail, and the background highlight, and then we're done. So let's move on to our glass detail. So to do that, we're going to go to our top layer one with our glass on it. We're going to click on that layer and click select. Make sure it doesn't have color fill turned on. You should see diagonal lines all going outside of it. If you had color fill turned on, just turn it off and it should unfill. Otherwise, undo it and then redo your selection. But now in our layer menu, just add a new layer. You should still see our diagonal lines outside, and grab our bright white color, second one on the top row. We are going to use our same to be compressed charcoal brush. We're going to up our size to 10%. My opacity is still at 70. And I'm just going to go through the edges and bring this in on the edges all the way around, kind of varying it a little bit, so it doesn't have to be perfect. Some can be brighter, some can be thicker, some can be thinner, all the way around through the bottom as well, up on the sides, and through the top, so that we get all the way around. So something like this. Beautiful. And then while we're at it, we're going to just kind of bring in a little bit more glass detail. So I'm just going to kind of follow the curve. So I'm just going to pick a point kind of in the middle, follow the curve, and then go down. So that we have kind of like a little stripe through it as well, very, very lightly. Maybe I'll make another little piece right next to it, following the curve still, kind of letting that fade out. Same thing on the left side. So just I kind of picked like 3 different spots to just kind of touch the glass again through the middle of our picture. So now it looks something like this, and that is our glass detail. Click our selection to turn that off, and that looks awesome. Now we'll make the fireflies inside. So I'm just going to do that on underneath my glass layer. So right on my top leaf layer, I'm going to add a layer right above that. And I am going to grab my yellow color, 9th one on the 2nd row. I'm going to grab my monoline brush under the calligraphy tab at 100%. And I'm going to make a few big fireflies. So I'm just going to touch my screen in a few spots to make these really big ones, all just like around my mushroom. Maybe I'll do like 5 or 6 or 7 of those. And then I'm going to make a glow around them, and then we'll make some smaller ones as well. Okay, we're going to go to our layer menu. We're first going to click on this layer, click the N, and set it to add. Then we're going to make a duplicate of it. So slide to left and hit duplicate with just all of our big dots on it. Grab the bottom one. Go to our wand icon. Click Gaussian blur and drag this up a bit to maybe like 10 to 15%. I'll maybe do like 12. And then I want them to be a little bit brighter, so I'm going to go to my layer menu and I'm just going to make a few duplicates of this blurry layer. Maybe 2. I think that looks good. So I have 3 total. I'm going to snap those 3 blurry layers together. So that is it for those. I'm going to go back to my top layer with my dots on it. And those are my big dots. And then we're going to make some small dots that don't have like a glow around them, so they look a little bit more faded. So same color, same brush. I'm just going to drop my size to maybe like back down to like 30%. And I'm just going to go through and make some more little dots now, just to kind of fill in the rest of my picture here. Like so. Awesome. Very lastly is a little glow in the background that's really going to bring it all together. So to do that, we're going to go to our layer menu. Let's go just to like layer 1, add a layer above it, and then drag it to the very bottom. So we just need a layer on the very, very bottom right above our background color. Click the N on this layer and set it to add again. And grab our 3rd color on the top row. Grab our selection tool, set it to ellipse, and turn on color fill. So we could draw it with our monoline brush, or this is another way to get like a good ellipse, and it'll be like a perfectly vertical one. So I'm going to start to the top left of my glass, draw a good kind of vertical ellipse like this, and let that fill in. Grab it with our arrow tool and we can move it around, resize it on freeform. I just want it to be like a little bit wider than my glass, and then taller than it from top to bottom, something about like this. Let's go ahead and center it on both of our center yellow lines. And then we'll go to our wand icon, click a Gaussian blur, and we'll blur it quite a bit. So we'll blur it up to maybe like 40 to 50%, somewhere in there. And boom, that is our beautiful little glow. You can, if you want, if you feel like it's too bright, you can go to your layer menu, click the A on this layer, and you can lower the opacity a little bit. I might do like 80%. I think that looks perfect. It still lets everything really shine without taking away from it too much, but still adds that nice glow to kind of finish things off. So once you are done with that, that is it for our drawing today. So I hope that you had fun. I hope that you liked the way that yours turned out. I hope that you maybe learned something new. If you liked this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up so that more people can find it and follow along as well. If you would like to share your drawing on Instagram, I would love to see it. So go ahead and post it there and then tag me so that I can check it out. And while you're there, go ahead and give me a follow so that you can see what I'm working on next. Thanks for watching.